Welcome to welcome to another installment of Olim Paveway's Toolbox Talks, 28 minutes of Tachlis for Olim. My name is Sid Slifko, and even though I have lived in Israel for close to 30 years, I still consider myself an Oleh Hadash, because no matter how long one lives in Israel, there's always something that you just can't get used to, and there's always something new to learn. So today we're going to learn a little bit about the world of Israeli bureaucracy as it relates to home management. We're not going to be able to cover everything, but to give you an idea of what to expect, let me just share a little visual. A friend of mine described the experience of living in Israel and dealing with Israeli bureaucracy as we're dealing with a hydra, the mythical creature from Greek stories, where when you cut off one head, two more grow in its place. Now, this obviously is a smiling hydra because in Israel, they're not mean. It just happens to be a bureaucratic system. And very often, when you have to deal with something, you have to cut off the head, and you're going to face two smiling heads. But nevertheless, even with the smile, it's still bureaucracy. So I'm just going to wish you a happy journey as you're making Aliyah in dealing with the bureaucracy. And remember, keep smiling. I also ask that you hold off on asking questions until after the presentation. And if there isn't enough time, please feel free to send it to our WhatsApp group. You'll find the WhatsApp address in the chat here. It's also going to appear on the last slide. This presentation is called Home Sweet Home, and it deals with home management in Israel. Now, you probably are been used to home management abroad, but there are very strong similarities, but certain nuances that are different. First things first, when you're dealing with setting up a home in Israel, know your rights. You have certain entitlements as an Oleh, often for up to 10 years. For example, you don't have to pay taxes on certain things for 10 years. There are other things that you can get within the first 10 years of Aliyah, depending on the specific office and the specific task. So you should check with your Aliyah representative at Nefesh B'Nefesh, or you can talk to an Olim personal advisor, which you'll find the address as well in the chat. State and municipal organizations have to give you monies. You are entitled to them by law. In fact, it's in their best interest to give you these monies, because if they don't, they're going to lose money in next year's budget. But don't expect them to run after you. Do your homework. Find out what it is that you're entitled to, and make sure you're demanded. When you do, they're not going to get upset. They're actually going to give it, as long as you can prove it, as long as you got the documentation. And we'll talk about that afterwards. Number two, go out and get some plastic sleeves. I'm going to show you, this is mine. Actually, what I have here is a plastic sleeve with my mother's recipe for kreplach, but I usually keep a whole series of plastic envelopes here that you can put inside a loose leaf binder. Use it to file your payments and your receipts. We're going to be taking a look at some of the regular payments that most of us have to pay when we live in Israel. And you should have a plastic receipt, a plastic sleeve for each of them. Trust me, it'll come in handy down the road. If you put in your electric payments, if you put in your water payments, if you put in your gas and arnona payments, we'll talk about that down the road. Have a number of these, file your documents in here. It will come in handy down the road. Very important, get guidance from the pros. The good news is you don't have to go it alone. And more importantly, you're not the first person who's had to go through that in making Aliyah. There are various municipal services that will help you out. And again, you'll find the addresses in the chat as well as on the last slide that I'm going to show you. In addition to the nonprofit organizations and the groups that work with Olim, also check with the internet. Look at the Facebook groups. Look at the WhatsApp groups that exist for Olim. They can guide you through everything that you need. And especially you have Olim Pavle, which is a gold mine for advice and support. You can learn everything about setting up utilities. You can learn about how to decipher your first Arnona bill. And don't be shy about asking your local city council or Misrad HaKlita for help. That's what they're there for. And they want to help. And there are people there who speak English. And even if they don't speak English, they know how to find somebody to speak English. You should take advantage of all that exists in Israel, both from the area, both from the nonprofit organizations that work with Olim, and learn how to navigate the system or let them help you navigate the system. As I said, Olim Pavle is more than happy to set you up with a personal guide, a personal advisor to help you navigate through the system. I'd like to share with you a glossary of terms that if you're going to be managing your household, these are terms that you really should know. I'm opening up the sheet so you can see. Okay. This is the glossary of terms that I think you'll find very helpful for you. When you're filling out or when you're faced with filling out bills, you will find that they will send you things in the mail. Very rarely, in fact, never will you find anything in English. So there are words you're going to have to learn and terms you're going to have to be familiar with because this is part of the jargon of living here in Israel. The first term on the list is cheshbon or cheshbon chozeh. The cheshbon is your account, or your in cheshbon chozeh would be the account invoice. That will generally appear at the top of the document that you get, whether it's from the municipal, the waterworks, whether it's from the electric company, gas, Arnona, that will be at the top of the list. That's not to be confused with the cheshbonit. The cheshbonit is the receipt that you end up keeping in your records. You fill out the form. Generally speaking, you complete the form that's on the cheshbon, or you just fill out the little piece that's at the bottom of the cheshbon. You give it back to the municipality, or you can do this online, which is, by the way, the way that we do it in our family. We do almost everything online, and we don't get anything in paper, but I do print it out and put it in my little plastic sleeve because that's the best way to keep a record of what's going on, even though I do it electronically. And you have the cheshbonit, the record that you paid. And always make sure that you keep a record because somewhere down the road, you're going to have to prove it. The company that gives you the receipt, the company that you have to pay, is the chevra. It could be the Chevrat Chashmal, which is the electric company, or the Chevrat Mayim, which is the waterworks. And you, as the client, are called the Lakoach. Not going to go into the Hebrew, the etymology, but these are two words that you should definitely know, Chevra and Lakoach. There's a word that I always joke. It's called the Ma'a, or in Hebrew, it's the abbreviation for Mas Erech Mosaf, which literally means additional value tax or surcharge. This year, they raised the surcharge for many of the services to 18%, which means that whatever you end up paying, you're paying for the service plus an additional 18%. There are certain things where the ma'am, as I wrote it, mom, is waived, but generally speaking, you are going to have to pay it regardless. So bear in mind that in addition to whatever it is that you are paying, you are also paying this tax surcharge. Two words that you should know the distinction between the two of them. There is chova and or chov, and there is zikui. The chov should really be chov, not chova. The chov is the debt, and the zikui is the credit. More often than not, when you get a bill from a service, it will say this is your chov. Very rarely, if you overpay, you may find yourself being entitled to a zikui, a credit for something that you have paid. You should only be so lucky to get zikuyim all the time, but 99% of the time you probably will have to do the chov. That's okay. It just means that that's what you want. Electric, water are measured by the monet, the meter. But bear in mind, not always is your payment linked to what the meter says. Sometimes they estimate what it is that you are expected to pay. For example, if you have 4 people in an apartment, they will estimate how much your water usage would be based on the usage during that period of time by 4 people in an apartment. Once in a while, they will actually read the meters and make it more accurate. If they estimate, they can sometimes overestimate, underestimate. They work it out at the end, or at least they say they do. I believe that they do. You can't always insist that they read the meter. They don't always let you know when they are going to read the meter, but they do read the meter and they do balance it out during the course of the year. One more thing you should know about in terms of payment, and that is what's called Hora'at Keva. Hora'at Keva is an automatic payment. We'll talk a little about this later. You can either pay each bill as it comes, or you can make an arrangement with your bank or with your credit card to pay a set amount of money or flexible amount of money on a regular basis, and then you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to sit there and say, oh, did I pay it this month? Did I not pay it this month? If you set up, by the way, a Hora'at Keva for something like the municipal water or the electricity, when you get a bill, the bill is going to have a little sign at the bottom that says, this is not for payment, this is for information. Because they already got the payment. They'll just alert you that this is what you ended up paying, or this is what will be pulling out of your bank or out of your credit card. So if you set that, you don't have to worry about it. You just file the paperwork in your clear plastic sleeve. If you haven't set up the payment, then you'll have to figure out a way how to do it. Used to be that you could just go to the post office, but find an open post office in Israel. I dare you. And if you do, then you have to make an appointment, or you go to the bank, or you go straight to the local office. They do have open offices. So, or do it over the phone or do it by credit card. But either way, you do either pay directly on the basis of the bill that they bill you, or you just set it up in advance so that you sort of, get the bill and then forget about it. 2 more things that are relevant to people who own homes in Israel. One is what's called Arnona. Arnona is essentially property tax. The Arnona covers all municipal services, garbage collection, keeping the streets clean, whatever it is that the city does on your behalf to maintain the city, that's covered by Arnona. And Arnona is based on both the neighborhood in which you live as well as the size of your apartment. And there is no set fee that I can say applies to everybody. You have to find out exactly how much it is, and that you have to check with the area. They will tell you which neighborhood you're in. They will tell you how much your apartment covers in meters. Sometimes they'll get it right. Sometimes they won't get it right. It may not necessarily be related to what your real estate agent told you in terms of the size of your apartment. It may actually be something else. This is the city's designation and how they do it. And finally, the last real concern that you would have about monthly payments on a regular basis is something called Va'ad Bayit. Va'ad Bayit is the payment you make to the tenant association. The tenant association is usually governed by an individual in your building or sometimes management company, and they pay for things like the electricity that's in the areas of the building that are jointly owned. If there's an elevator, they pay for the elevator. If you have a cleaner who comes in, however often, they pay for the cleaner. If you have a garden, they pay for the gardening. Whatever municipality doesn't cover, whatever your own personal payment for your own apartment doesn't cover, that's what it covers. If there are repairs, they pull it from the money that they accumulate from the money that's paid by the individual tenants. And sometimes it's paid according to the size of the apartment, and sometimes it's just divided according to the number of tenants that you have in the building. That's something that there is no exact fee. There is no rule that governs everything. Your mileage may vary as it goes along during the course of the year. So these are the things that you basically have to cover. And if you check in the video that I'm going to be putting up at the end, you'll see that that slide is going to show you exactly what it is we're talking about in terms of what things are covered. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about what budgeting like a Sabra is, which is really something that you should know on the basis of the bills that you will be paying over the course of the year. Electricity. Electricity is billed bi-monthly. Pay attention to seasonal fluctuations. Summer, we have air conditioning that can spike up your bill. The winter, we have heating. Depending on your heating, it could spike it or not. If you're heating on the basis of gas, then it really shouldn't apply. On the other hand, if you're heating your water on the basis of electricity, then your prices may go up too. There are different ways in which the electricity is used. If you have a gas oven, you would probably have less to pay. If you have an electric oven, if you have everything run by electricity, then your electric bill will rise. Pay close attention. And please realize that you're paying both for yourself and a little bit, you're also paying for that area of the apartment building, if you're living in an apartment building, that's considered to be jointly owned. So if somebody keeps on lights in the hallway 24/7, then the likelihood is that your price will go a little bit more. If you have an elevator, it'll probably cost a little bit more because elevator maintenance is fairly high. But these are things that you need to take into account when you're budgeting for the electricity in your apartment. Water bills. Water is also bi-monthly, and water is based on how many people share the apartment, which is found on the information on your Teudat Zehut, on your ID card. Israel is very big on water conservation, so please be very mindful of the usage. Both the water and the electricity, as I said, both have an additional fee, small generally, for shared usage if you live in an apartment building. If you find, by the way, that the cost of shared usage is a little bit higher than sounds reasonable, check with whoever it is who manages the building, because there might be a leak somewhere. We had it in our building for a couple of times. That was because the year before there was nobody living in the building. It was undergoing renovation. And they said, you've spent a lot of money for this month. Last year, you spent very, very, very much less. Why did you have the rise in your expenditure? And the answer was because last year nobody lived here. Now we've got people living here, so naturally they're using it. But pay close attention to how much you're paying both for your own apartment as well as for the jointly owned part of the building to make sure that you're not overpaying or that something is not going wrong. And whoever it is managing the building will take care of it. Gas. Typically, gas is used for cooking and heating. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you don't have the uses of gas at all. In our apartment, for example, we only use it for cooking and heating. Everything else is run by electricity. And generally, that's billed monthly. But as we say, your mileage may vary. And there are also different ways of doing it. Again, trust or check with your Vaad Bayit or the management company, or very simply ask your neighbors and find out how it's being run. Because there are a number of different small companies that handle gas, and you might want to know who's running it and whether or not their rates are good. Arnona. This is important. Arnona is calculated based on the property size and location, as I said, and there are discounts. There are discounts that are available for Olim. There are discounts that are available for seniors, for retirees, especially, well, primarily if you worked in Israel and you are on the Bituach Leumi records, then you can expect some kind of a discount on your Arnona, and that can be very good. And again, they're not going to run after you to tell you that, hey, you've got a discount coming in Arnona. That you have to monitor yourself. It's very, very important to do your homework and to make sure that you're getting all of the rights that you are entitled to, because if you don't, nobody will. Vaad Bayit can range from a modest fee to a much higher cost if your building has luxuries. Years ago, our building only had to pay for the cleaner and a repair here and there. Now our Arnona and now our Vaad Bayit is a little bit higher because we have a lot more amenities to our building. But again, your mileage may vary. Grocery shopping. Not much different than anywhere else here. You'll have to strike a balance between local markets and big supermarkets, and I'll talk about that later, because you have options. Generally speaking, the big supermarkets are cheaper. The smaller groceries are more expensive, but it's not always the same. Of course, transportation. If you're not driving a car, Israel has a very good public transportation system, but you need to have a Rav-Kav. The monthly card that allows you to go and travel on Israel transportation. Here's my Rav-Kav. The idea is that you fill it up with a certain amount of money. You present it to the machine when you go on the bus or the train, and it takes it off accordingly. But you need to constantly make sure that you have a sufficient amount of money to cover your travel. Again, it varies from from city to age to however, but it's a great, wonderful way to transport yourself. Bus drivers do not accept cash. You have to travel by card. That's the way it goes. We mentioned before Hora'at Keva, setting up an automatic payment. First thing you need to do is if you want to set up a Hora'at Keva, for example, your electricity, contact your bank, visit your branch or use the online platform, decide how you want to do it, get the number of the service that you want to be under Hora'at Keva, set it up with the bank, and the bank will pay for it on a regular basis, either as a flat sum every month or variable amounts over the course of time. And you can do the same thing with your credit card company as well as the bank, just to enable them to handle your payments. So it's another headache you don't have to worry about. And I find it's a very easy thing to do for us. This way we just keep a record and we don't have to constantly remember to make the payments, especially since it's so much more difficult now that it's so hard to do it, to find a post office where you can do this. I repeat, Keep your receipts. Israelis love paperwork, and that's where the plastic sleeves come in. So create a paper trail for yourself. Keep physical or digital copies of every receipt from your grocery to your Arnona bill. This is handy for disputes. It's good for tracking budget, and it may even be good for some tax deductions, especially if you're working for yourself, you're an atzma'i, you're an independent, then you keep all your receipts and you can take it off when you fill out your taxes. Local grocery stores are good for fresh produce, for eggs, for dairy, and it also helps to build a rapport with the local grocer. It's not just a way to be charming or to flirt. It also happens to be a way to save money. Some of them will be, very, I won't say generous, but very nice and offer you certain things if you're working with them and if you know them. Supermarkets are ideal for bulk purchases and non-perishables. We go to Osherod for our garbage bags, which we buy in bulk. Specialty stores you've got for gluten-free, organic, niche items, etc. The shuk, the open market, is great for bargains. One caveat, which I want to make, to me, this is a very important thing. Israelis often pay b'tashlumim, which is rolling credit. It's tempting. Don't do it. Especially if you use it in multiple venues, because you're going to find that you're paying a little bit in a lot of different places, and that's not good for you. If you must use credit, then please make sure that you understand the terms. One final item, use of foreign credit cards. Not every place accepts foreign credit cards. Arnona accepts foreign credit cards, even though it's a municipal service, but that's because a lot of people don't live in Israel, so they're paying with the foreign credit cards. But a lot of places don't. So if you're going to pay in credit, don't rely only on your foreign credit card. I'm going to finish now because we've only got 43 seconds left. And I know that I've rushed through, and I apologize if I've, dumped it all, but I want to say one thing. Household management in Israel is part science and part art. A little bit of planning, a lot of chutzpah, you'll master it. And remember, you're not alone. Olim Paveway, your next door neighbor, a whole community is out there waiting for you to help you survive. So go out, start managing like a pro. Don't forget to file everything in the plastic sleeves, because those receipts will save you in time. And with that, I just want to say very quickly, thank you for joining me. If there are any questions, please post them in our WhatsApp. The address is in the chat. Join us again next week for another Toolbox Talks. And on behalf of Olim Paveway, I want to wish you a good week, an easy klita, and best of luck in building your new home in Israel and managing it successfully and very, very well. Thank you.